You know, in 1895, Booker T. Washington, the great Negro leader, gave a speech called the Atlanta Compromise. That term was termed by W.B. Du Bois later. And what it was there was an agreement with white Southerners, with African Americans, and they sought that for the price of whites giving blacks basic education, nothing major, but basic education, that blacks would not seek to vote, they would not seek to call out segregation or discrimination of any kind, they would tolerate it. And W.B. Du Bois was for it, and then he quickly turned and said no. He said that once you admit to a ground that's that far back, it's too much ground to ever make up. And that's where we are here. We're already 60 million babies plus in the hole. And so the sins have reached unto heaven. And it's not the matter of knowing what is right. The facts are very simple. The fact is, it demonstrates how dark the hearts are, how compromised people are, and whatever's in them that causes them to do this is not good. It's very fascinating that the more you cross that precipice of untruth, the more jaded you become to it, and the more normalized it becomes to you. And yet it's never normal, it's never right, it's never good. And that's part of the problem. And so when we're dealing in things like this, we're dealing in a non-compromise situation, because you can't compromise life or death. You know, it's interesting, when the man that was a palsy, he had palsy in the temple in Luke chapter 6, Jesus was there and he was going to heal the man's arm. And the Pharisees were there waiting to denigrate Jesus. And Jesus posed the question, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath days or to do evil, to save life or to kill? He always had very basic, simple questions. It either is right or it's wrong. Which is it? Now, of course, they knew the answer, but they didn't say anything. They just stood there waiting for him to do it so they can accuse him. And of course, it didn't stop him. He called the man out and healed his arm, and they were angry and they set up a mob to try to kill him. And yet, still knowing what's right is of God, but doing what's right is the conviction. You know, government is at God's disposal, not the other way around. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture, according to Psalm 100 and verse 3. It's not the other way around. And we're going to have to account to God for all of those things. In fact, there is no hope for ever being forgiven other than Christ. And in Christ there is forgiveness, but you have to stop and you have to turn. And you have to love what is right more than anything else. Otherwise, you're always compromised to wrong. And when you're compromised to wrong, you can never dig your way out. Because the more you compromise, the more you dig in further. And so you have to pay the cost. It shows how far we've gone past. And it shows that we've lost the ability to discern righteously. But we can make up for it. In fact, we're obligated to. It's not just whether we will do it. Look at what will happen to us if we don't. We're already in the hole. We're already way back. This is nothing compared to what we need to do. So I would urge the legislators working on behalf of God, you're in that position just like everyone else. God has ordained you to do right. And Pharaoh would either totally deny God or he would try to negotiate with God. Well, I'll let part of you go, but part of you stay. Well, I'll do this if you do that. Anything but to simply do what he said. And in the process, Egypt was practically destroyed. And we're destroying ourselves by not doing what's right. By getting to the point where thinking compromise is good enough. Thinking that somehow if we do a little bit here, a little bit there, it'll make up for it. No, the stance is always there. Other people may not do the right thing, but it's going to be on them. But it should never be on us. And that's what God would have. God bless you.